Hello, students. I'm happy again to talk to you about some important aspect of the human brain. In the last video, I had already discussed about the main parts. So, some extra information can be there about the lobes of the cerebrum. As you see here, there are four lobes of the cerebrum, which is the bulk of the human brain, and that is the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. So, temporal lobe is the fourth one that I've written here. So, what are the functions of these lobes? How movement planning and emotions are being done, or how these things are happening because of the frontal lobe. How movement and your orientation and recognition are taking place because of the parietal lobe. How we are having the visual processing because of the occipital lobe, and this temporal lobe is responsible for perceiving or perception, memory, auditory and speech functions. So these are the different functions of these four lobes which are there in the cerebrum, right? And one more thing I would like to highlight here again, that is the cerebral aqueduct, which is this is the cerebral aqueduct. This fine duct-like structure which is there from running from the midbrain to the third and fourth ventricles of the brain. Actually, it is allowing the CSF to flow through it. So that is the cerebral aqueduct. So this was about the brain and its parts and their functions. And you have also studied about the reflex action and the reflex arc, etc. in the earlier classes, especially in the class 10. So you are remembering that the reflex action is the immediate involuntary action in response to a certain stimulus. So the receptor cells are receiving the stimulus, and by the sensory neuron it is being carried to the central nervous system, especially to the spinal cord in the case of reflex action, and then in the center of the spinal cord it is converted into the motor impulse, and then this motor impulse is sent back to the effector tissues. So this is the reflex arc. So it is making an arc, which is the reflex arc, right? The impulse to sensory neuron, from sensory neuron to the spinal cord, center of the spinal cord, from there converting into the motor impulse. The sensory impulse is being converted into motor impulse, which is carried by the motor neuron to the effector cells or tissues. So this is the pathway of the reflex action, and it is also called the reflex arc. This also you are remembering. And now types of reflex action, if you are remembering, so these are also important. One type is the normal reflex, if you remember. So we are having many reflexes which are happening normally, which do not need any past experience. Like if you prick a pin on somebody's hand or finger, he or she will remove the hand immediately. Or something comes before our eyes, the eyes is closed automatically. Or if something goes inside, water starts coming out. So these are the normal reflexes that we are having, right? The cough reflex, if some food goes in the windpipe, so we start coughing, that is the cough reflex. The sneezing reflex, these are all normal reflexes. But there are some reflexes which are based on the condition or the past experience. So that is called the conditional reflex. Like whenever a teacher comes inside our class, the students stand up. That is a conditional reflex. And then seeing a TV, some ladies, they are involved. They are busy in knitting a sweater or something. So their eyes are on the TV, but they are continuously knitting a sweater. So that is also a conditional reflex which is taking place. Okay, and now then in say in darkness, whenever we see some piece of rope there lying on the roadside, we sometimes suddenly when we see, we jump out. So that is also a conditional reflex. We are thinking that it is not a rope, it is a snake. So this is a conditional reflex. There is a very important experiment in this regard, that is Pavlov's experiment, which is saying that how a dog is a conditional reflex action is taking place with a dog. So that is a experiment which is known as Pavlov's experiment, and it shows that whenever there is a ringing of bell, the dog starts salivating. The salivation starts taking place, seeing the food. But actually, it is happening because salivation is happening because of the sound of the bell. So even if the food is not there, the salivation will take place in the mouth of the dog. So that is a conditional response which is known as the Pavlov's experiment. So these things or these inputs, if you are having, that will always be better for your understanding and for your knowledge about the reflex actions. And then when we come to the other part, that is the sensory organs related to the central nervous system, because the senses that we are having, the sense of vision, we are seeing objects, the sense of hearing, we are hearing sound, we are feeling heat or feeling cold, or we are having feeling the sensation of pressure, etc., on the skin. So that is because of the sensory organs are having some receptor cells. So receptor cells are there in the sensory organs which are receiving the stimuli, and we are feeling, we are able to feel the respective senses. So how many types of receptor cells are there in the sensory organs? If you look into, there are five types: the mechanoreceptors, the chemoreceptors, the thermoreceptors, the photoreceptors, and the phonoreceptors. So mechanoreceptors are doing what? They are receptors for touch, pressure of skin due to mechanical change on the skin. Chemoreceptors, receptors for taste of the tongue and smell of the nose due to chemical influence. Thermoreceptors, heat and cold receptors in the skin due to change in temperature. Right? Photoreceptors are rods and cones of the retina of the eye towards light, and the phonoreceptors, receptors of the sound and hearing. So these are the various kinds of receptor cells that are there, those are there in the sensory organs. That is why the various stimuli are received and they are converted into a motor response, motor stimulus, and then the suitable response takes place. So this is how it goes on. So starting from the nose, if you see what is there, which receptor cells are there, the olfactory receptor cells are there, which are receiving the sensation of smell. We are smelling substances because of the olfactory receptors. Those are there surrounded by the mucous membrane in the nose. And similarly on the tongue there are taste buds where gustatory receptors are there. Gustation means taste. So gustatory receptors are there, the taste buds through which we are tasting whatever we are eating and drinking. Right? So this is all about nose and the tongue, the taste buds of the tongue. So then we go to the main sensory organs, that is the sensory organ for vision, that is our eye. Okay, so let us start eye here in this video. I will continue eye and ear in the next video. So about eye, first of all, you have heard about this, you have read about this eye and ear in your previous classes, but to remember the significant and to this ought the salient points of the features of the eye, particularly eyeball. The wall of the eyeball is having how many layers? Three layers. Which are they? The exterior one is the scleroid, which is made up of dense connective tissue, and then we are having the middle layer, which is the choroid. Okay, this is full of blood vessels and looks blue. Okay, and then the anterior layer is called the cornea. So these are the three layers of the wall of the eyeball. So right now the middle layer is very important, the choroid layer, which is thin on the exterior area, but on the anterior side it is thick, and it forms a structure which is known as the ciliary body. So ciliary body is important, is continuing forward, and it is what it is doing is it is keeping the lens of the eyeball in place. Okay, so it is continuously, it is continuing forward to form a pigmented and opaque structure called the iris, which is the visible colored portion of the eye. The colored portion of the eye that we see is what? Is the iris. Okay, and the eyeball contains a transparent crystalline lens which is held in place, which is kept in place by ligaments attached to the ciliary body. So ciliary body is helping to keep the lens in place. Okay, so this you have to remember. In front of the lens, the aperture surrounded by the iris. The iris is there. In the middle of the iris, there is a very small aperture which is known as the pupil. Okay, the light enters through the pupil only into the eyes, and the diameter of the pupil is regulated by the muscle fibers of iris. So this is the outline of the structure of the eyeball. Okay, this you have to remember, and the other parts of the eye and the mechanism of vision and the ear I will discuss elaborately in my next video. Okay, thank you so much, and if you are liking my videos, please subscribe to my channel. In fact, I am seeing there is no rise in subscription. Rather, there has been a reduction in subscription. So if you are liking my video, please subscribe to my channel. That will encourage me to continue doing work like this. Okay, at this age, right? Thank you very much. God bless you all.